Among our many efforts, the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities has been advocating for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to become elevated on the eligibility list for the COVID-19 vaccine. Earlier this month, alongside a strong network of advocates, we were successful in expanding vaccine access to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the state of Georgia. Today, I'm joined by GCDD Council member and self-advocate extraordinaire, Nandy Isaac, for a brief conversation on effective advocacy during Developmental Disability Awareness Month and beyond. This is an important time for healthcare access and advocacy, and we're looking forward to chatting about that today. So Nandy, ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as a leader in the DD network in Georgia, what advocacy efforts have you been involved in during the pandemic?
Thank you, Eric. I'm so glad to be here today. Thanks for allowing me for the opportunity to share. I advocate for the vaccine with Governor Kemp by contacting him online. Governor Kemp had added people with developmental disability to the vaccine list on March the 8th. I trained my peers about advocacy for Rise Up and Speak Up. We spoke to many groups on voting rights and why it's so important to vote. I created 9 videos for Georgia Living Well on valued social roles, support decision making, and stereotypes.
Great. So how do you feel like your advocacy has worked to improve the lives of Georgians with developmental disabilities?
My advocacy helped to open doors with people with disabilities to get vaccinated. More and more people with disabilities were registered to vote and voted by mail-in ballot for the 2020 election of last year.
Great. So as we know, advocacy can mean lots of things. So what are some simple ways that a person can advocate for themselves in their local community just to get started?
1, knowing your rights and responsibilities. 2, learning how to get information on goals, standing up for your rights, finding out who will support you, reaching out when you need support, speaking up or writing support yourself.
So what are 3 things people should know about becoming an advocate for things that matter to them?
Can you please repeat?
Sure. What are 3 things people should know about becoming an advocate for things that matter to them?
It matters for development. It matters a lot to me and as an advocate and those who have advocacy. It matters to us because it is very important to get all the waivers and services that we need and supports.
Well, thanks for answering those questions, Nandy.
You're welcome, Eric. And now, are you ready to be interviewed, Mr. Eric?
I am.
Let's get started then.
Great.
Okay. Agency work in many different ways to support the mission. How does GCD support some advocates and their efforts?
So first, councils across the country are required by the Developmental Disabilities Bill of Rights and Assistance Act to fund self-advocacy efforts in at least a couple of different ways. First, we're supposed to fund an organization that provides self-advocacy efforts. So United for Change, which is offered by Sun, is one of those projects that we started funding to help promote self-advocacy across the state. We're also supposed to support leadership efforts for people with developmental disabilities. And then finally, cross-disability coalitions. So when we work in things like to address the waivers, we're working with people not only with developmental disabilities, but people with physical disabilities and other disabilities as a way of trying to make sure that everybody gets the services that they need. So we're really involved in externally trying to help people, but also to make sure that self-advocates on the council have an opportunity to take leadership roles and to expand their own leadership opportunities. So we think we are very involved in supporting self-advocacy and those efforts.
Thank you, Eric. That's something that I learned. I know that. Okay. Second question. What is people don't know about GCD works to address issues in Port George's with IDD?
I think one of the most important things to think about, especially around advocacy efforts, is that the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities really only has 25 or 26 members at a time. And that means that those are the only people we truly represent. So the power of GCDD comes from advocates across the state pushing issues that are important. And then Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities comes behind that effort to talk with legislators and others to push issues that are important to all people.
Okay, last question. Eric, can you please tell us how can people get involved with GCD?
I love telling people how they can get involved with GCDD. I think it's really important. So first of all, as I just kind of mentioned, get involved in our advocacy effort, because that's where all of our abilities to talk with legislators and others comes from. So join our advocacy network. You can go to our website, click the green button at the bottom of our website at www.gcdd.org to join our network of grassroots advocates. You can subscribe to our magazine and our newsletter. Visit www.magazine.gcdd.org to read stories about issues important to people with disabilities and their families. And finally, you can get support and answers to your questions by joining the Georgia DD Network's monthly Zoom session, COVID-19 in Georgia. Supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and you can register for that at www.gcdd.org/GADD-network. Really, the idea is to get involved, to make sure that you have opportunities. And without, for instance, our advocacy efforts, I don't think that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities would have gotten their COVID vaccine shots as quickly as they did. So advocacy is a really important part. So thanks for asking me that question, Andy.
You're welcome.
And thanks for listening today to this blog.
I also got my very first vaccine a couple of weeks ago, and I get my last one the 31st of this month. So
that's great. And everybody should get their vaccine, right?
Yes. Thank you so much, Eric, for interviewing me, because you are a good person, and I always look up to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, we're actually done here. Sorry.
Yeah, are we good? Is that all recorded?
Yes, all recorded. Nandy, can I ask you one question maybe that we can see if we can add into the video?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you share an self-advocacy experience that was very momentous for you, that you realized that your efforts were paying off on an issue that was important to you?
Can you please repeat that,
Yeah,
Hillary?
this is Devika. So I was just asking, can you share like a short story about like an self-advocacy experience that when you were advocating for something that was important to you and you saw it come to, whether it was the vaccine or anything else that was kind of, you know, that advocacy works?
Last year things got a little bit hectic. It sort of hit really, really strong with the COVID. And I really didn't like the fact of being away from my community that much because I love going to Special Olympics. I miss my friends, and it's really, really hard for me to get around this pandemic thing. But I'm still holding tight and staying busy by advocating. I had written a letter to Governor Kemp. He replied that letter, and he went ahead and applied that in March the 8th. It is like a miracle. It's really astounding. It's like a blessing. And I got my very first vaccine and a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to get my last one following this week. And I think this story will not only change my life, but other people as well with disabilities who has advocacy with various disabilities. It sort of help them to encourage them to get vaccine so they can be vaccinated, so they can be a part of their community and do things on their own or with their help with a caregiver or a family member. And that's why I advocated to help people with disabilities get this COVID-19 pandemic shot type thing. This has been a whirlwind of heartache after another, but we go through this together, and that's why we are rising up to speak up and to really add on, not just for our world, but our families and our loved ones and friends. After pandemic is finished, maybe a new normal. I don't know how I will feel after that, but it is going to be really hard. But prayer is very powerful in my family, and I think prayer is the key to get this COVID go away. Thank you.
I think I would just add that really over the last year, we've heard lots of stories from individuals with developmental disabilities who felt isolated. And I know that they're excited for the opportunity to return to somewhat of a normal life where they can see their friends and family and meet with them. And I think the most important thing that we can add is what we've learned from self-advocates, we as an organization and we as individuals, and really the trend or the important part of making sure that self-advocates are in leadership positions on DD councils and other organizations is really how we're going to change what's happening in our society. So I just want to encourage people to extend those opportunities for leadership to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And as we do that with the Georgia Council and in the efforts that we do, I think we're going to see more and more people step up, and their message is going to be heard much better by legislators and other policymakers when it comes from them. So I want to thank again Nandy for doing this with us to tell her story, because we need to hear more stories like Nandy's.